All right, welcome everyone. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in for today's explainer. We are diving headfirst into a truly legendary piece of 1988 Bollywood history. I'm talking about the iconic horror thriller Veerana. We're going to break down the whole shebang, the deep lore, the wild plot twists, and honestly, some genuinely bizarre comedy. It's basically a masterclass in how 80s cinema created these unforgettable, supernatural spectacles that just totally hooked audiences. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right at the very start of the film, viewers are greeted with this bizarrely specific disclaimer. It reads, "This film's story is a fiction based on old folk tales. Ghosts, witches, and black magic have no connection to reality. Viewers should watch this film only for entertainment." By explicitly telling the audience not to be afraid, the creators ironically set this deeply retro, incredibly spooky vibe right out of the gate. It's literally the perfect psychological primer for the supernatural chaos that's about to unfold.
And so we really have to ask, what dark secrets lie buried in the cursed village of Veerana? The film does not hold back, right? It plunges us directly into this massive mystery spanning generations. It all centers on the wealthy Thakur family and this terrifying, blood-soaked curse that threatens to completely wipe out their entire lineage.
Let's move along and see how this builds. To really understand the curse, we have to map out this super complicated, multi-generational backstory. It's kind of like a giant puzzle. So, 15 years ago, the family patriarch, Thakur Mahendra Pratap, slays the evil witch Nakita. Okay, fast forward 5 years, so that's 10 years ago from our present day, the Thakur's brother, Samir, mysteriously vanishes without a trace. Around that same time, a young girl named Jasmine is rescued from the wilderness under some very strange circumstances. And that brings us to the present day, where a grown-up Jasmine starts exhibiting these terrifying, clearly possessed behaviors. This timeline right here, it's the absolute spine of our story.
Now, to understand why Jasmine is possessed, we've got to look at the underlying lore of the film. It all revolves around Mahakaal and the Tantriks. So who are they? Well, they're basically dark deities and their worshippers who use black magic to destroy innocent lives. And their ultimate goal? To resurrect that dead witch, Nakita. The film grounds all of this in an incredibly eerie, authentic flavor. You literally hear these tantrics chanting dark mantras like Room Reem as they're weaving these wicked spells from the shadows. It is super creepy.
Right, so this brings us back to the present day and to the really desperate attempts to save Jasmine. We enter a sequence I like to call the Hypnosis Session. A well-meaning doctor arrives at the family mansion. He's totally convinced that Jasmine isn't possessed at all, but rather she's just suffering from some severe psychological trauma. So to cure her mind, he places her into a state of extremely deep hypnosis. As the hypnosis reaches its absolute peak and Jasmine is completely under, we're hit with a truly suspenseful question. Who is actually speaking through Jasmine? Because the voice that suddenly comes out of her, it is no longer the voice of an innocent young woman. It is something ancient and deeply, deeply terrifying.
Now, what's really interesting here is what happens when the entity drops the act. Under hypnosis, it just snarls. "I am not Jasmine. I will kill everyone. I will kill Thakur Mahendra Pratap and his entire family." Talk about a chilling revelation, right? In that split second, the doctor realizes he isn't dealing with a mental breakdown. Actually, scratch that. He realizes he is sitting face to face with pure, unadulterated evil.
And what happens next brutally raises the stakes for literally anyone who uncovers the truth. Let's break down the doctor's really tragic fate. First, he uncovers the demonic presence. Second, absolutely terrified, he urgently warns the Thakur to flee the mansion immediately. Third, the sheer terror of what he's just witnessed causes the doctor to completely lose his own mind. And finally, in a state of absolute madness, he runs blindly into the night and is killed after running right under a speeding truck. The film is sending a very clear message to us. Absolutely no one is safe.
But the danger isn't just inside the mansion. Oh no. We are introduced to the wilderness murders. The possessed Jasmine wanders these desolate, foggy roads at night, luring unsuspecting men, like this one traveler who just offered her a lift, deep into the wilderness. She uses her charm as a trap, and then leaves their bodies brutally mangled. It's classic horror, playing on that universal fear of the unknown lurking just off the beaten path.
Okay, but just when the tension gets almost unbearable, the film gives us this wildly bizarre breather. Enter Hitchcock. And yes, he is an eccentric horror movie director literally named Hitchcock. This campy comedy subplot is just wild. We've got a director who proudly claims to keep ambulances outside theaters for his terrified audiences. Yet, ironically enough, he gets absolutely terrified by a buried black cat. And in one of the most absurd sequences of the whole movie, he ends up being chased through a graveyard by a wild bull. Seriously, a wild bull. It's a surreal tonal shift, but it perfectly encapsulates that unique, wacky charm of 80s Bollywood.
And this brilliantly illustrates the film's most jaw-dropping twist, which actually comes from within the family's own home. On one hand, we have Baba, the humble, innocent servant who supposedly saved Jasmine 10 years ago and has lived with the family ever since. On the other hand, we have the evil Tantrik, the dark priest, secretly orchestrating all these murders and curses from the shadows. The big twist? They are the exact same person. Yep, the loyal servant has been the evil mastermind the entire time.
The reveal is absolutely shocking. The Tantrik corners our heroes, Hemant and Sahila, and just dramatically declares, "I put on that disguise so that I could take revenge on Thakur Mahendra Pratap and his family." And as if that wasn't enough, not only has he been poisoning the family from the inside out, but we also find out he kept the Thakur's missing brother Samir locked away in a dark dungeon for a whole decade, 10 years.
So the crucial point is how this all ties into the Tantrik's ultimate, chaotic master plan for the climax. It's a three-step process of pure dark magic. Step 1, he plans to hypnotize Jasmine on Amavasya, which is the pitch-black night of the new moon. Step 2, bring her to his burning cave using his dark powers. And Step 3, sacrifice her body right in the fire to resurrect the soul of the dead witch Nakita. It essentially turns into this desperate race against time to stop a horrific ritual.
This leads us straight into a frantic, high-stakes climax. Samir is finally freed from the dungeon and joins the fight. The Tantrik unleashes all his dark magic, trying to use a cursed bottle. But the Thakur actually shatters that mystical bottle, risking his own life to free Jasmine's soul, while Nakita's effigy is just utterly destroyed. The family finally unites to shatter the curse once and for all. It's an epic showdown.
Ultimately, light conquers darkness. The destruction of the Tantrik and that fiery cave represents the absolute triumph of divine power over supernatural evil. The village of Veerana is finally freed from the decades-long grip of black magic, which allows the survivors to finally step out of the shadows and breathe again. As the dust settles, the film leaves us with this final philosophical quote, which is such a nostalgic nod to 80s Bollywood storytelling. It says, "After every dark night, there is a bright light. Behind this mystery of nature is a great power, God, before whom every sin ends." It perfectly ties up all that intense melodrama and visceral horror with a neat, satisfying bow of moral victory.
Which brings us to our final thought. How exactly does this wild blend of chilling folklore, bizarre comedy, and intense melodrama create an enduring cinematic legend that still haunts pop culture today? Honestly, I think it is the sheer, unapologetic audacity of the storytelling. The darkness of Veerana may have been vanquished on screen, but its phantom echoes, they continue to dance in the eternal flames of cinema. Thank you so much for joining me on this focused exploration of a true cult classic. Keep questioning the shadows, and I'll see you in our next explainer.